guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a review and a mini tutorial on a brand new eyeshadow palette just released a little over a week ago from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and it is the Soft Glam palette. So I'm going to go over packaging, give you some swatches, talk about the formulation and the color selection, and then give you a mini tutorial on the eye look that I'm wearing here, and then finish up with my overall thoughts on this palette. So let's get to it. So first off, the packaging. It is that soft velvety texture that you also found on the Modern Renaissance palette. So some people like it, some don't. It does get a little dirty, but it does feel nice and luxurious. This palette also comes with a dual-ended brush. One end is a nice fluffy crease brush, and then the other end is just a nice dense kind of semi-flat brush, which I think is really good for smudging out the lower lash line or outer corner work. When you open the palette, there is a full-size mirror, and then these 14 beautiful shades. So these 14 shades include 9 mattes and 5 shimmers. 3 of the shimmer shades, which you'll see in swatches in a moment, I feel like are pretty close to metallic. I applied 2 of them today on my eyes, and I did not need to wet my brush. So I think there's 3 that you could really make metallic, and then these 2 are just a nice hint of shimmer. Talking about the color selection now, there are 7 brand new shades in this palette and 7 repeat shades. There are 3 that are found in the Modern Renaissance palette also, which is Tempera, Burnt Orange, Cypress Umber, and then Noir I also found in my Anastasia World Traveler palette. It was also in there. And then Orange Soda and Sienna. I think those were in the original, the very first palette that I ever owned from Anastasia. I think it was the Lavish palette. I don't own that anymore, but those are 2 of my favorite shades in that palette. So when I was initially purchasing this palette, I looked at the list of colors and thought, do I want some repeat shades? And then when I saw what shades were repeated, I wasn't hesitant at all, because those are some of my absolute favorite shades that I use often in the Modern Renaissance palette. But it is something that Anastasia has been apparently criticized for, and her response to it was that when she does a compilation or a new palette, she comes up with a color compilation in her mind, and she said, if we already have a shade in existence, why do I need to create a new shade that's just slightly different and put a new name on it and make you buy a new palette? So I appreciate that honesty. So, but some people don't like to buy a new palette unless they're all brand new shades. So that's just something to be aware of. And now, as far as formulation, I was curious. Sometimes when formulations are changed, or it's the same color from one palette to the next, sometimes they don't swatch the same. The colors are spot on the exact same as in the Modern Renaissance palette. The formulation, I feel like, is different yet better. So these in the Soft Glam palette are much more soft and buttery feeling than in the Modern Renaissance palette. Now, don't get me wrong, I still feel like the shades and the shadows in this palette perform very well, but just texture wise, when you touch the 2, these are definitely softer, but I still feel like they perform well, which you're going to see in the tutorial in a moment. Now, as far as the color compilation, when I saw a picture of this palette, I got really excited because I thought, wow, it's kind of the first palette that hasn't been like screaming at me unicorn colors, or is just not another sunset cranberry color palette. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love, love, love my deep cranberries and oranges and purples and all of those shadows. But after a while you go, do I really need another palette with those same colors? So when I saw this color compilation, that to me just kind of speaks early spring, and Anastasia said her goal with this was just to create something that you could easily take from day to night and would also work well for those makeup artists who have bridal clientele. I thought, yes, this is a color combination that I think could do all those things. I think you can come up with a lot of different looks for daytime, work appropriate. They would also be great looks for date night, or if you're getting married or have special occasions. I think this palette could do a lot of those things. So let me show you some swatches here. I really felt like everything swatched very well, with the exception this color Rustic. I had just a little bit of some patchiness on my swatching. I have not used that one yet on my eyes, so we'll see how that performs. But overall, everything else swatched very well. And so now let's get into the tutorial so you can see how they apply on the eyes, and then I'll wrap up this video with my final thoughts. So I've already primed my lids with my favorite Smashbox 24-hour Photo Finish Shadow Primer. And now I'm going to go in with this lightest shade here, Tempera. And I'm going to use my favorite big old brush here from Morphe. It's the M208. And we are going to layer this right along the brow bone and to the top of the crease. Now going in with my Morphe M504, I'm going to take this color Dusty Rose, and we are going to dust this all over the crease here. And use this as our transition and blend up into Tempera. And these shadows performed very well yesterday, so I'm hoping for a repeat performance. All right, and then next in the crease, I'm going to build it up just slightly, and I'm going to go in with a little bit of sienna. I don't want this to turn too warm, but I do want to add just a little bit of depth. So you can see just a tiny little bit goes a long way, and I have not done my concealer yet, because I did get quite a bit of fallout yesterday. So that's just a word to the wise. Prepare to have to clean up under your eyes after you use these. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with that same brush, and I'm going to go in actually with a little bit of Mulberry next. And we're going to deepen that outer corner a little bit. And take this about halfway across in the crease. And I'm bringing this all the way down to the lash line. And then before I darken the outer corner anymore, I want to go ahead and go in with my Shimmer Shades on the lid. And I tried these yesterday without putting any kind of a sticky base, like a cream shadow or anything underneath them, and they worked beautifully. So I want to show that to you, because you know me. I like to do a little cream shadow underneath Shimmer Shades, but these performed great without it. So first I'm going to start with this color right here. It's called Sultry, and I would describe this as like a rosy brown or a rosy bronze, because it has shimmer. There's no glitter in these, but definitely some shimmer. They're very metallic-y shades, and you can see, I mean, that is amazing immediate pigment. So you really don't have to build these up. You do need to tap off. You're going to get some fallout, but amazing pigmentation right from the start without any base other than a primer. Isn't that pretty? Oh, love that. Okay, and then on the inner corner, I'm going to wipe off that brush, and now I'm going to go in with the shade right next to it, Rose Pink, one of my favorites in the palette. And I am going to now go on the inner corner here and blend it into that Sultry shade. So it's just kind of a gradient look from the pink into that bronze. And then I'll go back with my crease brush, the one that we've got the little bit of a darker shade, and now I'm just gonna really lightly just blend the edge of those shadows. So I don't really bring the shimmer shade into the crease, but I don't want there to be a harsh stopping line. And then I'm gonna go back with my fluffy crease brush, no extra product, and we'll just blend, soften. And now we're going to work the lash line and outer corner of our eye. So I'm going to start with, this is the NYC City Proof liner in dark brown, and just line the upper half of my lash line out here. And you don't have to be super precise. I'm going to bring this up kind of almost into a wedge shape out here. And then get closer to the lashes as I come in here towards the center. And then I'm going to take an angled brush. This is the Sedona Lace EB23. And I'm going to take the point it out towards the eyebrow, and actually just drag this over that just to make it a little more pointed out here. Just to kind of make a nice soft winged shadow look. And then I'm going to go in and further blend that liner with the EB21 from Sedona Lace and just blend the edge. I'm going to go back in with the Cypress Umber on that same brush and go over the top of that line. And then take a little bit of Noir and go on the bottom right close to the lashes. So we're just using that liner just to give us a nice base so that when we put these shadows over the top of them, they kind of stay where they're placed. They don't get muddy and move around or anything during the day. Not that I think these shadows will. I think right there at the lash line in the outer corner, I just like to ensure that that darkness stays where it's supposed to be. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with my M433. No extra product, and we're just going to blend that little bit of an edge there. And there we go. Okay, for the lower lash line, I'm going to start with a little bit of that liner as well, just on the outer third. And because this liner is so creamy, I'm going to use my finger just to blend it and bring it in maybe about halfway. Then taking my flat definer brush, this is the Morphe M432. I'm going to take a little bit of Mulberry right up close to the lash line, and being sure to connect it with the corner. Wipe off that brush and then take a little more of Dusty Rose on the inner part where that liner ends, just to kind of help it fade. And then what I like to do at the very end, if I've added my shimmer shade before I did some blending, I like to go back and see if I need to add just a little more, and I think I do. So I'm going to take my E60 and a little more of that Sultry shade and just pat that on the middle again. Pat and press, and then I'm going to wipe it off and go back with just a little more rose pink right here. And then I'm going to take my tiny little Morphe M506 brush, no product, and just kind of slightly diffuse this outer edge a little bit here. want this to be soft glam, not too harsh. And then I'm going to go back with my M504 in a little dusty rose. Just lightly kind of soften that edge, make it a little more rounded. Don't worry, we're going to clean up. And then something I like to do sometimes, because my skin tone has a little more yellow base to it, the Tempura shade, I like it in the Modern Renaissance palette too, but it's a little on the pink side. So sometimes I feel like I need a little yellow tone. So I'm going to add just a slight little halo by adding a little bit of this orange soda. And I'm very lightly just tapping my brush once in there. And then right here, I am going to blend right at the top of that orange soda into Tempura, and you can see it just warms it up just enough to where it's not such a stark brow bone highlight. Okay, time to clean up under the eyes, add some mascara, and we'll come back and do inner corner highlight. For inner corner highlight, I am going to go in with this shade called Fairy. Now, when I did this yesterday, I was a little afraid because this swatches with a little greenish gold, kind of hints of greenish gold. So, but don't panic. I figured out a way to make this work. So I'm going to put this on. Now, obviously, you could leave it like this. I don't know if you can see if it's showing up quite as boldly. I'll add a little more. But to help tone this down, because, you know, this would be like the artistic kind of finish where you're putting like a bright yellow gold in the inner corner. But that's not quite what I'm looking for. So after we apply this in the inner corner, I'm going to then take that brush, wipe it off, and go in with a little Tempura over the top of it. And Tempura just doesn't have as much shine as I like for an inner corner highlight, but by putting this over the top of that Fairy shade, it kind of makes it just the perfect, almost like a pearlized gold inner corner highlight. Do you see that? Kind of cool, huh? All right, guys, so here is our finished eye look. And as you can see, I really feel like it brings out the color of my eyes. So if you have green, blue eyes, this palette in particular is really going to bring out the color of your eyes. So overall, I really felt like these shadows performed well upon application. There was some fallout, so just make sure you do your concealer later. But I wore this look yesterday for 12 plus hours. I did not experience any additional fall down throughout the day. The colors did not fade. They didn't get muddy. Of course, I always use an eyeshadow primer, so that was with an eyeshadow primer, but I felt like they performed very well, stayed put throughout the day, and I feel like this is a really good quality palette. So if these are colors that you are into, I feel like it's a good mix of kind of rosy tones with some warmth options as well, and I think you can get a full range of looks from this palette. So I am considering doing a 3-1-1 with this palette, giving you 3 more looks that you can do with this. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I'd be happy to do that. But overall, hopefully this video was helpful for you, gave you enough information. So if you are considering this palette, you will be able to make an informed purchase decision. So right now it's available on the Anastasia Beverly Hills website, and then it's my understanding the first part of March it will also be available on Sephora and Ulta as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not already a subscriber, hit that button below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys, have a great day.